Hey guys, Ponce here on the PBE, here to talk to you guys about some balance changes to the new Preseason 2016 Mastery Tree. So you guys might remember a little while back I made a video kind of previewing the stuff and talking about individual masteries, most of them anyway. And I was kind of mentioning this is new stuff and it seems like maybe a little bit wonky, so I imagine there'll be a good number of balance changes. This is actually more than I was expecting. They changed quite a bit on this patch here, so this should be going live in theory on 5.24, which goes live soonish. But yeah, a lot of stuff to go over. Let's go over them individually. Starting off with Feast. Again, this is one of the masteries I do recall mentioning in my video that was really good, and so it's no surprise it's being nerfed, at least not to me. This is the one, you kill a unit, you get the healing. The cooldown on that has gone up from 20 seconds to 25 seconds. So yeah, 5-second sort of nerf is quite a bit when you're dealing with a 20-second base. Again, not really surprised. It was a really good mastery. Next, let's move on to Fervor of Battle. This one is nerf-ish. I've written down over here in my fancy notepad, nerf-ish, because they've changed how it sort of works, in that you only get stacks versus champions now. This includes attacks and abilities. So your ability or your attack has to actually hit the guy to get the stacks. You can't, stack it up on minions or monsters, or did it work on towers? I think it did, actually, but I'm not 100% certain. But anyway, you can't use it kind of in that sense. So in a laning context, this is nerfed because, one of the good patterns you could use with this would be, you stack it up fully on just, last hitting or even just kind of auto-attacking minions that are not about to die. Then you run into the guy from max stacks and go wham, 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 and you trade really well and you back off and you keep your stacks refreshed. And you guys know how it works, presumably, if you used Fervor of Battle. So they're moving away from that, but to compensate, now auto attacks if they're melee range. If you're ranged auto attack, you're just screwed. But if you're melee range and you auto attack someone, you do gain 2 stacks, and your damaging abilities will give you 2 stacks as well. But that one's on a 2-second cooldown. So, for example, I think it works with DOTs. I'm not sure, but yeah, you can't like super quickly refresh with DOTs, I guess. Or actually, I have no idea how it works with DOTs, so I probably shouldn't comment on that. Or, if you're, for some stupid reason, Rise with Fervor of Battle, you can't immediately stack it up by mashing your keyboard and then, like, using all your spells. Or speaking of mashing your keyboard, I guess you can't be Ribbon and mash your keyboard, and then get all your stacks, through spell abilities and stuff. Really quickly, anyway. So, yeah, this works more so in terms of, like, team fighting, I guess, because, obviously as you get into the team fighting phase of the game, when you're contesting objectives and pushing stuff up, you can't reliably, guys, hold on, I need to stack my, battle or Fervor of Battle up on these minions, please stop last hitting, or please stop clearing the wave, I just need a bit of time. Like, that's generally not going to work, and a lot of the time you're standing in front of objectives like Baron, you're waiting for a fight, stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, enough about Fervor of Battle. Let's move on. Next is Deathfire Touch. Now, Deathfire Touch is kind of weird. Hopefully I understand how it works correctly, but it's for the most part a nerf here. I'd say almost exclusively a nerf. But the one thing that was buffed was base damage, gone from 6 to 8, a paltry amount, whatever. Now, again, if I understand this correctly, currently Deathfire Grasp and still deals damage in ticks every 0.5 seconds. So what's happened here is the duration has been increased, but the damage per tick has been lowered because everything still happens in 0.5-second ticks. So the old duration, for example, on single target would be 3 seconds. So over 3 seconds, you would get 6.5-second ticks. Now you get 8.5-second ticks, except each 0.5-second tick deals less. You know what I mean? So it's nerfed in the sense that if you were to auto-attack someone, apply the Deathfire Touch debuff on the old system, you would have gotten 2 ticks or more damage. Under the new system, if you refresh it earlier at that 1-second mark, you would still apply 2.5-second ticks, but each tick has dealt less damage because it hasn't had a chance to deal or deals a smaller ratio of the total damage it was supposed to deal. Make sense? Probably not, but whatever. Anyway, same deal with AoE spells. You get more ticks, but over a longer period of time. But each tick deals less, so you have to get the full efficiency. The ticks have to go off for 2 seconds. Next we have DOTs. Now DOTs actually takes a double whammy because DOTs are kind of weird. And as far as I'm aware, DOTs would refresh Deathfire Grasp because Deathfire Grasp doesn't keep stacking on itself kind of thing. So not only are there less ticks, there's only like 2 ticks of 0.5 seconds because the duration's down to 1 second. Each tick is dealing less damage simply because, I guess DOTs would refresh Deathfire Touch. Now, incidentally, we should probably mention that obviously Deathfire Touch doesn't refresh itself, even though it is a DOT, because that would be stupid, because if it did, it would refresh itself until you're dead. Which would be a funny bug if that ever existed, but as far as I'm aware, it never did. Anyway, moving on to the Cunning Tree. Let's go on. This is actually a new mastery, so this one's kind of exciting. It's a new one called Assassin. I like this one. Deal 1.5 increased damage when no allied champions are nearby, so you're sort of selfish assassin type player. Great for even for the team fighting phase. If you're off on your own being a dick and you don't want to be with your team and want to kill people, this is great for you. It's also just great the laning phase in general if you're a solo laner. Not quite as good for bottom lane and jungler, I'd imagine, but this is great. For example, I play a lot of Jarvan top lane, very heavy damage build Jarvan. This is the kind of thing I would consider taking, I would think. Alright, moving on to the next Keystone Mastery. Precision has been buffed, rather interestingly. I kind of like Precision anyway, but it's been buffed quite a bit. It's only the armor penetration portion, as you can see here, that's been buffed. But it used to start at 3 flat and then scale less amount per level. Now it starts at 5 and goes up to, I believe, if you do the math, I think 9? Yeah, an additional 9 flat, adding up to 14 flat armor penetration. So of course this is not percent penetration like battering blows, but I think to outscale flat, the percent, the person would have to have well over 100 armor before it's more efficient. So I've always been a huge fan of this mastery specifically, especially considering if your champion deals any magic damage at all, you're getting a benefit from the magic pen as well. So that's getting quite a large buff actually, and I'm quite personally happy to see that. But anyway, let's go on to Thunderlords. So Thunderlords have had its AD ratio increased. It says 30%. So in terms of ratios, how you normally see them, that would be 0.3. So it's gone from 0.2 to 0.3, 20% to 30%. I should write down. Oh, I didn't. That's the one thing I missed. It's a buff. All right. Now, Windspeaker's Blessing, I'm calling this a rebalance because, well, what happened is it now gives a flat armor and MR increase instead of a percentage, 15%. So it goes from 5 to 22 armor and half that amount in MR per, based on your level. So level 1, it gives you 5 and 0.2 MR. And at max level, so level 18, it gives you 22 armor and 11 MR. Now, normally, if you're using it on your support, who's else going to be taking this? It's basically your support that takes this, right? When you're casting it on your AD carry and you're trying to peel for him and save him, typically this is going to be better because they have nothing in terms of defensive stats. They're going to have 30, 40 armor or something like that. Which would have been garbage under the old system. Now, there were probably abusive edge cases where it was a Malphite who has 5 billion armor, and you cast the shield on him, and he gets 15% of 5 billion, and then it was quite strong. So in those cases, it was nerfed. So I guess, again, abusive edge cases, really. But, if you're just using it normally on your AD carry or whatever, this is, generally speaking, going to be better. Now that does it for the Cunning Tree, if I have this right here. Let's move on to the Resolve Tree. So this is actually the first sort of lower tier, or first tier nerf, I guess. Our first sort of basic tier nerf, not counting Keystone Masteries. But Undying has gotten hit with the old nerf band here. The bonus armor and MR has been lowered by a certain amount, as you can see here. That's just kind of whatever. Let's see, what else are we doing? We'll Explorer. Where is that one? Explorer. I've never taken this before. It's been buffed. I'm sure it's great. I just like taking less damage. So probably it's just no one uses it. So hey, let's buff it. So that's what's going on there. Veteran Scars, I'm calling this as a rebalance. It's a weird one. Again, that's a huge amount of 4% was a huge amount. So it's gone from percent to flat, as I said, but 4% is actually a decent amount if you have a lot of HP. For example, if you have, so every 1,000 HP you're getting 40. So for example, if you have 4,000 HP, that's 160 HP. That's a large amount. So in that sense, end game, you're probably getting a lot less. Well, not, you're probably getting less in general. But flat is good in the sense it obviously has like more impact immediately. And the early game just tends to be more important than the late game usually. Like, just because of how League of Legends works in solo queue, it's just about who snowballs early and who gets that first blood and causes the enemy team to rage. And they're like, ah, God, my team sucks. Let's all, surrender at the 20-minute mark. And you guys know the deal, right? So, it might be less efficient on paper, but League of Legends is played on paper. So this is kind of a mixed bag, really. So just kind of to math it out, let's say, well, I think if you have 600 HP, it's going to give you 20 some odd HP at level 1, because, let's say a beefy champion is going to have roughly 600 HP, maybe a bit more, but 600 times by 0.04. Under the old system, you would have had 24 HP at level 1. Now you're getting, basically almost double that at 45. All right. Lastly, let's move on to Bond of Stone. This is mostly a nerf. Bond of Stone is always actually really, really good in my opinion. It's been nerfed for just like if you're standing on your own, the damage reduction is better. It's gone from 2% to 3%, and but the damage reduction for your allies and the damage absorb thing, when you take damage for them, that's been lowered from 8% to 6%. So that's just straight up nerf there. Anyway, that does it for the masteries. I'm wondering if they'll change anything else. They probably will, something here and there. I think I recall reading somewhere that they wanted to add more masteries like Assassin, but I don't remember exactly what the deal was. More tier 1 keystones, if I recall correctly. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. If there's any more updates, I'll of course let you guys know, if they're important anyway. So yeah, I'm off to go stream now. Thanks for watching, guys. So you're happy to catch this video. Of course, the description below contains twitch.tv/bonds. But that's enough advertising for me. Have a good day, everyone, and have fun with your masteries. Goodbye.